Armando Salguero from OutKick.com talks NFL headlines with us in an hour. OutKick 360 rolls on. We broadcast live from Music City. 6th and Peabody, our location, with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. We head to Omaha. Trey Wallace in Nebraska covering the College World Series, and he joins us from the press box in Omaha currently. Trey, always great to have you on the show talking SEC headlines and the future SEC program. With the Longhorns in Texas, they land the number one quarterback in the land in Arch Manning. What did you think of today's news?
I thought it's huge news for what Steve Sarkisian's trying to do at Texas. I mean, let's not forget they got Quinn Ewers also, that's on the roster right now. This is big for a lot of reasons too. It's let's not forget Texas has a return trip to Tuscaloosa that Arch Manning could be a part of coming up soon. And also, for what Steve Sarkisian's trying to do, I knew Quinn Ewers is a big name. I get that. You just landed Arch Manning. So, if Texas is trying to get into that next step as they get set to join the Southeastern Conference, talk about a boom moment on a Thursday. Here's the other thing, too. It happened on a Thursday afternoon at it was 12:45, not much going on. And I think that's exactly how Arch Manning wanted it. Something kind of low-key. All of a sudden, he starts a Twitter page and he releases it. and it's there. It's big for Texas and what they're getting for the future.
Do you expect Nick Saban to go speak to some sort of community group and call out Texas for their NIL also, saying they're paying all their players? And I say that half jokingly, Trey, but I mean Quinn Ewers has an Aston Martin that's burnt orange. All this talk about A&M and Arch Manning goes to Texas, and I mean there's some people kind of joking about it, but I think we got to put Texas in the realm of teams that are getting it right early on with NIL and the power they have with that brand and their alumni.
You know, I'll say this about Texas, and I think. Well, let me rephrase. I'll say this about Arch Manning. I think Arch Manning wanted to find the perfect fit. Like Arch Manning isn't worried about money because they've got money, but it helps when what they're going to be able to do for him over the next 4 to 5 years when it comes to marketing himself, growing himself bigger. You know, I don't think it'll ever be as big as like his uncle, Peyton, but getting to that level. And I think overall, too, yeah, the money is a factor. Look, here's the thing. People have caught up with other schools that had an early jump on this NIL stuff. And it's taking nothing away from the groups that had it going early on. But, I mean, Texas put a foot down. I mean, this thing could have gone the Georgia way, could have gone a couple different ways. And the fact that they got the deal done, man, that's huge for what they're trying to do. And, yeah, you got a quarterback driving around in Aston Martin. I mean, look what Bryce Young's driving around in. Look what C.J. Stroud's driving around in. Nick Saban getting on a soapbox talking about NIL while also having players ride around in Mercedes and, nice vehicles in Tuscaloosa that I'm sure they got at Nick Saban Mercedes in Birmingham. I don't think he can really complain too much.
How much of his career do you think will be in the SEC?
I would. So if he's coming in next year, I don't know if he'll be the starter right out of the gates because they still have Quinn there. It depends on how good he is. But I would think you might get 2 years out of that, guys. I mean, if I'm putting it all together, he could become the starter in 2024. And then play 2025, and then play 20. Just technically 2 years, I would think. Chad, Jonathan, Paul. I kind of think that's the number that we're looking at.
Is this
either way? He's going to go to Tuscaloosa and play.
Yeah,
you know, he's going to be on the roster when the Longhorns invade Tuscaloosa next year.
I really believe more and more that it's going to actually be 2025. That the initial report about when they were going to join is going to happen. It may be a year early, but. Putting that aside, even if it's a year or two, that he's in the SEC, was this the best move for the SEC? And what I mean by that is we've already got 2 national powers in Georgia and Alabama in the SEC. But for Texas to do this and land a guy that this is outside the box for the Manning family, this adds even more spice. And I don't know if it even has the same effect if he goes to Oklahoma. With all due respect to Oklahoma, to me, to steal the phrase, it just means more that Arch Manning went to Texas and Texas is about to join the SEC and the rivalries that's going to create, and also the rivalry there in state with Texas A&M.
The biggest part about it is like folks, did folks not think Texas was going to start putting this thing together? I mean, they're about to join the Southeastern Conference. They weren't going to just sit around and sit on their hands and not spend any type of money to get this program put in the right direction. Like, this was coming. Like, you felt it coming. Now, the Arch Manning thing, it takes it up a notch, okay? But I think overall, when we look at this, I get your point, Chad, with so many good teams, and it's a super conference, per se, now with Texas. And I agree with the Oklahoma point. Texas is right now, nationally more of a little bit of a splash to me personally than Oklahoma is, even though Oklahoma has had success. When you say Texas, it's just something's different about when you say it compared to Oklahoma in college football. So we're about to find out. We're going to see, because my biggest thing is with the Longhorns coming in is, they got to get all their ducks in order before they join the conference, because they don't want to come in here as a lame duck and they start taking losing seasons right off the bat, or 6-6 or something like that. Texas is setting themselves up to be a national power when they join the Southeastern Conference. Now, the problem is You got to face off against Alabama, A&M, LSU, Georgia. Once right when you get in, Florida, maybe Tennessee's getting things going by then. So it's going to be harder for Texas, to play for a national championship or play for an SEC championship. But I think that's also when we start talking about college football expansion, when the playoffs, I think that might hit around the right time Texas gets in, where guys, they could be playing for a national championship with 2 losses in the SEC.
Trey Wallace with us, OutKick.com, the website. Trey, how is Omaha and how are the Jello shots?
The Jello shots are good. I did not put them on the company card, so we're good if the bosses are listening. I did end up buying 2 of them for Stanford fans that were here. I kind of felt bad for them. I just paused the piece just a second ago talking about just the atmosphere here. It's really special. And if you haven't been here, I urge you to come here just to experience it once, because it reminds me of, a Final Four on steroids, where there's so many different fan bases here. And it's so much fun. I mean, I got into Omaha late last night, and at 2:30 this morning, there were Arkansas fans calling the Hogs in the hotel lobby. And they were doing it for a while. So I walked down there. All of a sudden, I walk out of the elevator, and the darn security guard is calling the Hogs with the Arkansas fans. And I'm like, okay, we've hit another level here. But I'm telling you, it's an event that if you're a baseball fan or if you're just kind of a sports fan in general, I would come out here. And crazy part is there's Tennessee fans out here. I talked to a couple, they came out there and they're like, we're not going to miss it anyways, even though our team's not here. A kid wearing a Vitello jersey around. There's LSU fans that you see every game behind home plate. There's so many different fan bases that come together for this one event. Omaha does a great job of doing it. And I'm just glad that we're here covering college baseball. I want to see it continue to grow, and it's going to take some time. I think we all can admit that it's going to take more time for it to continue to grow. But Omaha, the city, the people, they do a fantastic job. And this matchup we're about to watch, and you guys are going to keep up with it while you're on the air. But, I mean, Arkansas and Ole Miss are about to get into a dogfight. And the loser of this game goes home. The winner of this game will play for a national championship starting on Saturday. It's going to be pretty electric in here.
They're also playing for the title of most Jello shots purchased at Rocco's. I enjoyed the column. Arkansas fans have spent over $37,000 on Jello shots at Rocco's, and they've been keeping a tab of every one on the board. Over 8,000 of them. Meanwhile, Ole Miss, which has been there the longest as well, they're inching closer to $7,000 of total Jello shots at $4.50 a pop.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I'm sitting here and I can bring it up, and I'm looking at the numbers right now. And Arkansas is bought 8,240 Jello shots, and Ole Miss has bought 6,117 Jello shots. Now, if you add up the money, I added up Arkansas, that's over $37,000 this bar across the street from the field, Rocco's, has made. And credit to them, they are giving money to the food pantry in Fayetteville and in Oxford. But goodness, how did I not think of this, 10 years ago to come up with some kind of Jello shot thing in a college town and make this much amount of money? It blows my mind. It pisses me off at the same time.
I pictured these shots and you as melting because I always think of the College World Series as absolute just heat bloodbath. But I called up the forecast here. Today's high 83, tomorrow 84, Saturday 84, Sunday 78. What's happening?
Need some
there?
of that weather down here.
I mean, this sounds like something I could actually go to and enjoy.
It's because I got off the plane last night at midnight and the hot weather went away. No, that's exactly. I mean, look, and I was looking at it, Paul. I mean, it was 105 degrees, 102 degrees, earlier in the week, and then I get here. All of a sudden, I walk out of the hotel this morning at 6:30, and there's a breeze, and I'm. Where am I at? Wait a minute, what's going on here? It makes it for great weather for the fans that want to come out and want to enjoy it. Not to sit in the crazy amount of heat that they have been for the last week and a half. I think, Paul, a lot of people, I don't think they quite understand that this is pretty much a 2-week event. So you've got fans that have been here for 2 weeks. You've got baseball teams that have been here for almost 2 weeks. So it's crazy how it's all put together. And yeah, man, I'll take the weather. I'm about to walk down and spend some time in the stands for a good amount of the game, and I want to kind of experience it, what it's like, because I was here last year covering Tennessee, and yeah, I lost 5 pounds. Once I got off the airplane last night, then it started cooling down this morning.
You'll put it back on.
Yeah, the misnomer for someone who goes to Nebraska every summer is that it's cooler in the north when you go further north. When you go northwest in the middle of the country like that, it is blow dry or hot, even with the wind blowing there in Nebraska. Trey Wallace, college football, college sports writer for OutKick.com, is our guest. Trey, I'm guessing every bit of America outside the SEC footprint is thanking God right now for college basketball that featured North Carolina and Kansas in the championship game. Because what we have now is a college football championship game that featured Alabama and Georgia. You're going to have a college baseball national championship series that features one current SEC team versus one future SEC team with Oklahoma locked in, and the women's college basketball champions, South Carolina. This is true dominance taking place right now in major college sports that actually make money that we're seeing from the SEC. Your thoughts?
Yeah, don't forget track and field, too. I think the SEC is really good in that, too. But
again, sports that make money. I'm talking about, but yes, track and field, too.
Right? No, I know, I'm messing. I think overall it's absolutely crazy. First off, that the conference has had this kind of run, but I think it also shows you how much that they put into each of these sports, and what you're getting out of these teams, and you look at the NCAA tournament. I mean, you go back and look at it. We played an SEC championship with Alabama, Georgia. 3.5, 4 weeks later, we're playing the national championship in Indianapolis with all fans. I just took a peek a little bit ago, and it's all red and blue here in Omaha with Arkansas and Ole Miss fans. They're going to have to start paying at the SEC for some of this revenue that they're bringing in for these different sports, because it's great. It's really crazy to see. I mean, there are so many T-shirts from different schools in the Southeastern Conference that are here. Arkansas has completely taken over this town. Ole Miss has done the same thing. The economy's booming here during these 2 weeks, and 4 out of the 8 teams came out of the Southeastern Conference. So it's a pretty amazing run that the SEC's been on. And yeah, if you add 2 more teams, Oklahoma and Texas, technically that's 6. So I mean, it just I don't know how things could get any better right now. Maybe besides winning an NCAA tournament basketball. But right now things seem to be rolling for Greg Sankey, and I think he's going to be here today. And yeah, this is what you're here for, man. The SEC network's here; they popped up, and this is what we're all about. So I'm glad to be out here covering the SEC, and you know what? They're dominating right now. Let's just see if they can win a national championship.
And Hutton, I even forgot about future SEC member Oklahoma winning the softball World Series and dominating the entire sport.
Trey, you ran into some Texas fans today, I believe. Were they talking baseball or Manning?
It was the craziest thing. Like I'm walking around the concourse, and I'm just minding my own business, and I'm just taking it all in. And this is, I don't know, an hour and a half ago. And I run into some Texas fans, and all of a sudden, man, they just started yelling out about Arch Manning. Like they're not even playing here, and they're talking trash about college football and getting Arch Manning. It was a beautiful sight to see, because it shows you, just the variety of fans that are here. But the biggest thing that was on the Texas fans' minds, because they're not playing anymore, is landing Arch Manning. And what are they going to do? They're going to shove it in the face of the Ole Miss fans that were walking in front of them. And then they're going to try to piss off the Arkansas fans that are there and the others that went after him. So it's beautiful. College football never ends. In 3 or 4 weeks, we're going to be in Atlanta. It's going to be SEC Media Days, and then we're going to start fall camp, and it continues to roll on. So, no, Texas is not playing baseball anymore, but they sure got the number 1 quarterback in the country in Arch Manning.
Trey Wallace, OutKick.com is where you can read all of his work, and he's currently in Omaha covering the College World Series. Great work as always, great discussion, and we'll catch up next week with you, Trey. Appreciate you.
Enjoy it.
Guys, have a good weekend. Thank you.
Thanks, Trey.
There's Trey from Omaha checking in from the ballpark.
Jello shots, phenomenal idea by that bar.
Oh, I mean,
I am not a Jello shots
you make it a
guy,
competition.
but think about the money they've generated.
But when
from
there's
this.
a scoreboard, like you're saying, you put a scoreboard up, you don't like Jello shots, but if there's a Tennessee column there, you're having a couple Jello shots.
I wonder what's more cost effective though. Just What about just actual shots? What if they just did fireball shots or something like that?
Yeah,
just
but you
pouring
can't.
that out of
Here
a bottle.
you can
and set it up.
flavor them in your team's color. It just works. It works perfect.
Exactly. And they're pre-made. You just simply
Not expensive.
grab 4. Here's $20.
Bang! It's ingenious.
$37,000 off of Arkansas alone.
That's awesome. I mean, incredible. And the way Trey was talking about, what does Oklahoma's fan base look like in Omaha? Made it sound like it's all Arkansas and Ole Miss right now. I wonder what it's going to be like. That they've been the dominant team so far. And also, think about Oklahoma going for this clean sweep of softball and baseball.
He
National
raises
champions.
a good point too. I mean,
That's the small white ball capital of the world right now in college sports.
who can take 2 weeks, even if your kid's on the team? Like, Evie makes the softball
Does people have
championships. Are you? Yeah. What are you going to do?
I mean, unless you're Billy Lucci, you're not able to go multiple times.
I mean, I think
Shout out Billy.
If it's your family and you have an understanding employer, then you go.
Yeah.
And you just take the 2 weeks off and you figure it out later. But I'm always amazed by
The diehard.
we see with the amount of Kentucky basketball fans that will take off all of March from Wednesday through the weekend to follow Kentucky in the tournaments.
They're working
starting with the SEC
every other
tournament.
single day of the year.
Or they pick SEC tournament or NCAA tournament and they go to one of the two spots and watch. It's incredible.
Coming up, a little controversy last night with the Stanley Cup final where Colorado takes a 3-1 series lead, headed back to Colorado for Game 5 in a series-clinching opportunity. We'll get into that controversy in overtime. We will also discuss, we mentioned $37,000 in Jello shots. Fred Goldman has said that what OJ owes him, $37,000 is a fraction of it. And many times we see these court rulings and the money that's thrown out, and we say, oh, man, this is hitting so-and-so in the pocketbook, right? Like, this is a lot of money. And I am fascinated by how little that money actually gets paid. Details on how much OJ owes the Goldmans. That's coming up as well on OutKick 360. There's a repetitive storyline I can get sucked into easily. It's not every time, but most of the time. If it involves O.J. Simpson and the murder trial from the 90s, I'm locked in. And when I see the headline from TMZ that Fred Goldman says that O.J. owes him $96 million based on the ruling from years ago, and this includes interest and back payments and missed payments. Do you imagine, going through life, not aside from just the story itself, but having a court ruling where someone is financially responsible for, in a civil case, for any judgment, and then not actually receiving any of that on time?
Where he's living this celebrity lifestyle, and he's got this Twitter following, and he's doing all of this stuff. It has to be crushing to see this every day. I have this little fantasy about running into O.J. Simpson, where he's being treated like a celebrity, like in an airport, and seeing him and seeing people getting his autograph or trying to get their picture taken with him, because you guys know how I am not reluctant to nudge into stuff that is not my stuff. And if I ran into this in the airport, I would go ballistic. Hey, are you having fun having your picture taken with a murderer? Hey, how's that autograph? Does he sign it with blood? Does he have some scuba gloves
would be the first time he's heard this.
I would also be reluctant to speak this way to a murderer in public.
There'd be plenty of witnesses. There'd be plenty of witnesses to that one.
That is my funny story with all this. When I was in college, I was working at the liquor store I worked at with a buddy of mine. His girlfriend went to the University of Miami, and this was 2002, 2003. I think before he went back, went to prison for everything that happened. But OJ's at a bar that this guy's girlfriend's out, taking shots with all the girls at the bar, and Buddy's girlfriend calls up and is on the phone with him, this is so great. We're here partying with O.J. Simpson.
Why is that
and
great?
My buddy was like, well, that's fine, honey, but he's a murderer, right? He murdered 2 people. And it's just O.J. Simpson, big celebrity here hanging out with us. I mean,
even if for some reason you want to buy in to the criminal case, which I and most people I know think is absolute BS, to know that there's this civil case hanging there where he's gotten away with not paying, and this family is owed allegedly $96 million. Why have we let him become a re-celebrity?
And it was $33 million. It was $33 million in 1997. That was the original number, and that has ballooned over time with interest. Because there was a report a decade ago that it was up to 56 or something million.
This guy should have trouble leaving his house.
You can name any number, and it's just hollow, which is fascinating to me that that's allowed to happen.
Should not be allowed to happen. Yeah. He should not. He should have a hard time being out in public because people make him uncomfortable.
It reminds me that one of my favorite Chappelle bits is when he goes through over a 2-hour stand-up special the 4 times he's met O.J. Simpson. And he starts with the first. And it's
one of his Netflix specials.
It ends with the last. And everything ties together with those 4 stories. It's phenomenal. And my guess is you could probably YouTube it. And they've edited all 4 together. It is hilarious. And terrifying at the same time.
I'll be doing that during this commercial break, in fact.
Yeah.
I'll be finding that.
Unbelievable.
It's not funny with the Goldman situation, the money owed, but my immediate thought when Amber Heard had the settlement or the money coming down for that she owed Johnny Depp, I thought, can she pay this off?
Right. I mean,
I don't know that she's I don't know that she's financially solvent enough or has made enough in her career to do that.
But she'll wind up close to destitute, no? That's what it's supposed to do to you. It's supposed to take everything you have.
I feel like there's just an eternal loophole of I claim bankruptcy. I mean, you could get the right financial advisor to show anything and just say, I can't pay it.
He had the wherewithal to put stuff in all kinds of tax havens or secret, ahead of time. To protect himself in every way possible. Whereas most people who commit double murder and end up civilly liable don't do that. First off, they're not filthy rich, and secondly, they don't do that. Yeah,
and then half the time, I mean, this is on the mega case end of it, but half the time, even on just some of the smaller cases, when people are ordered to pay restitution, they have nothing to show for it, right? Or they have ordered to pay court costs. They can't even afford that. And they just head off to prison, jail, whatever it might be.
Yeah, the Goldmans, I mean, they've suffered way
brutal.
Way too much on every front.
And I can't remember her name. Fred's daughter. Kim, thank you, Davey. Kim Goldman on Howard Stern, another must-listen interview. Fascinating from her perspective. Coming up, we've got headlines for you, including the controversy in the Stanley Cup Final and how it was covered in real time last night. Odd for a championship series and a series-defining win, really.
I got my close game.
For Colorado. NBA draft tonight and how the odds are swinging back and forth on who's going number one. Arch Manning to Texas and more. Hour number 2 of 360 underway across the OutKick Network. 6th and Peabody, our home each and every day with the Yaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Crew all here today as well. A lot to get to. Armando Salguero joins us in 20 minutes. NFL headlines and discussion with Goodell, Snyder, the Browns, trade market for Baker Mayfield, and much more. That's all coming up in 20 minutes. We will also be joined in studio by Jacob Phillips, linebacker for the Cleveland Browns, and, of course, local product here in Middle Tennessee in Nashville, and played college football for the LSU Tigers, national champion in 2019. He'll be in studio with us an hour from right now. Controversy last night in the Stanley Cup Final. Avalanche win in Game 4, but the real story is it goes to overtime. It's a fantastic game. Back and forth. And
just what I've been complaining has been missing.
Tampa, I'm watching this going, the Lightning are doing it again, where they have trailed in a series, and we have counted them out, and in their mantra of running it back to back to back, here they go again with a chance to tie the series. And I'm already playing it out, what the flight back to Colorado would be like for the Avalanche, who destroyed Tampa in the first 2 games, only to potentially, hypothetically, lose 2 straight and return back home. Now they lead 3-1, and we feel as though you can crown them.
Should
right?
have a handle on it.
Well, so the goal in overtime initially is very confusing, and it leads to even more confusion after the broadcast ends. We were watching this, guys, and there was a goal with Colorado and Nashville in the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs where the puck actually went through the top of the net. It broke the net behind the goaltender, behind UC Saros. And Colorado ended up winning that game, of course. They swept Nashville. But I'd never seen anything like that, where the puck broke the net and you could not tell because of the trajectory of the puck whether or not in real time it was a goal. Because it looked as though on camera, and the broadcasters thought this too, it went over the top of the net and then hit the boards behind the goal.
UC Saros?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's talking about a Preds game.
Okay, yeah.
I'm explaining a Preds game
gotcha.
in the first round with Colorado. And last night was very similar to that, at least from a broadcast standpoint. On replay, it was obvious that it was a goal. But watching
the puck
it
never comes out, so it has to be in the net, and it's stuck in the top of the net.
Yeah, it's stuck. It's
but
wrapped around
knew
the top
what
of the
was
net.
going on. There were 10 people,
and we could get a replay.
Kadri, who scored the goal. Nobody knew what happened. But I think, and Hut, you saw the celebration much more quickly than I did. Behind,
the
over
cameras
at
cut
center
to
ice, and they were watching, I think, on the big board and saw very clearly that the puck was in the net. But everybody that was going to the play, including the officials there, just lost it and didn't know where it went.
Yeah, I mean, it was.
And Sean
confusion.
McDonough had no idea where it went, and I don't begrudge him. I mean, he didn't have the clearest view of it. And also, he's looking to the officials to signal a goal. He's looking for the goal scorer to react. He's looking for a defenseman to start skating off. It was a very confusing end. And I stuck with it. I listened to the interview with Kadri and everything, and I flipped away, and I didn't know that there was further controversy after this.
So post-game, I'm just flooding Twitter and then just watching comments, and Tampa's saying, well, there were too many men on the ice. We're going to go back and look at there's too many men on the ice. Come to find out, there were. And not just briefly.
This was a long shift. Both teams were dying.
Yeah, and it was a fantastic. Colorado was putting the heat on in the overtime period. I mean, they battled back throughout the game and never had the lead until they had it at the very end in overtime. Point being, they were extremely close. The Lightning were on their heels in overtime, and so you're on the edge of your seat going, Colorado's going to win this. And sure enough, they do. But for it to go down like that and for it to be a 3-1 now deficit where it could have been 2-2 with the way hockey's played and puck luck and whatever else you want to bounces and everything, for that to be missed is so disappointing. That's the only way I can describe that. Is you have a chance to knot this series 2-2, and for Colorado to gain the momentum off that, it was a goal, but there were also too many men on the ice at the time. That's a bummer.
Officiating blunder at a crucial moment of a crucial game, which really swings the series. You're talking 3-1 versus 2-2.
Yes.
Was the photo that I've seen the video of the end, but the photo, it's weird. The photo that's circulating of here are the 6 men on the ice, and they count them out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The sixth guy is within the 5 feet radius of the bench, which that's when it becomes what the NHL came back and said they didn't admit any fault. They said it is what do they call it? A judgment call by the officials. If they're within 5 feet of the bench, the guy was going off 5 feet from the bench when it happened.
They have reports and video footage. It takes McKinnon over 5 seconds as the goal is being scored to get back off the ice onto the bench. So just based on the time length alone, as you move across ice, he's further than 5 feet.
So that picture,
as the goal is scored.
That picture is conveniently timed, perhaps, where they took that within 5 feet, but he was further.
It is a weird scenario that didn't get live coverage. Number one, because it's late in the evening.
They
go into overtime. They get off of ABC, right? They go to local news. They want their affiliates to be able to run their commercials that, so they can pay their bills. And so you've got that issue. They get off their coverage. They're not going to come back out and play the game anyway. But it was just lost in the moment, right? And there's just, that sucks. It was a great game, and I wish the series were 2-2. And there's no telling what happens. Colorado probably ends up winning anyway with the way they were playing. But nonetheless, we could have had a tie series.
You never know what happens in overtime.
The strangest thing to me was two things. One, the post-game stat sheet had 6 men on the ice in the official report. They have players on the ice when the goal is scored, and the NHL published it as these 6 men were on the ice when the goal was scored, and then they took that back and changed it to 5 men after it started circulating with the press. Oh, they're saying 6 men were on there. And most of the media didn't know up until John Cooper was crying. I mean, literally in tears. Like, he was emotional in the postgame, said, I can't even talk about it right now. And you're all about to see it. You're all about to see how we got robbed tonight because they had 6 men on the ice. And I'm bizarre.
Yeah.
It's
a weird
look,
scene.
I understand that sports are emotional, but I mean, you just won 2 Stanley Cups the last 2 years. Like, chill out.
Well,
you've won it twice before, and come on.
They've won it twice before. They have, with this series, the chance to go down as one of the all-time great teams and runs in not just hockey history, but in professional sports. When you consider how difficult it is to win in the NHL postseason and how they've gone about it the last 2 years with COVID restrictions, going from that to injuries and salary cap issues to then and that was on a reduced season. And then this year they're saying, well, reduced season, do it again. And then to make it back and to do it the way they've done it, I'm not going to question Colorado. Colorado is awesome.
Very good.
They might be the best constructed team that the NHL has ever seen in regards to the salary cap era of things, with just how their money is spent and who their star players are and how often they come to play. But nonetheless, I'll look back on it, especially if Colorado ends up winning in 5. Because they smoked Tampa at home.
I understand Cooper being upset, and no issue with that. I'd be upset too if I were him or any player on that team. It was just that level of emotion that I saw is something I would expect from Joe Madden when the Cubs were about to win the World Series, where there's people being held on by a plug in the nursing home to watch it happen. If they got robbed in a game and stole that moment after so long of not winning, a World Series, that's the level of emotion I'd expect. Not someone who'd won the last 2 Stanley Cups.
Hit us up on Twitter with your thoughts at OutKick360. So, right as the hockey game is coming to an end last night, turning on FanDuel, I'm loading the app, I'm looking around, and the gambling odds shifted dramatically in the favor of Boncaro last night, up to he was the clear-cut favorite around midnight Eastern. And then by the time I check it today, it's flipped back. And there was a ton of money that came in from one or two, big bets that ultimately flipped things in a big favor towards the former Duke prospect, Chad. Or there is some inside information with what's going on. Because I understand ESPN's covering this, and they're trying to build up as much as they can with tonight's draft. But with all of their NBA insiders, they're saying they don't really know how things are going to go top 5, which is a bit unusual. And for the odds makers at BetMGM and then FanDuel and others to flip it and then for a couple hours and then it flips back, I'm fascinated by this.
So it flipped.
So it was Jabari Smith.
Who?
Jabari Smith was the overwhelmingly betting favorite to be the number 1 overall selection. And it flipped last night to Banchero. Now it's back to Smith.
And it's big time back to Smith.
But he was but up until midnight last night, he was the overwhelming favorite. Like you pretty much bank on him. If you're trying to do a parlay and pick the top 5, you would have him number 1, and it would be obvious. And then it just made it made Twitter noise last night. It was, they must have some scoop here because the odds have flipped. Now, is this, and I also thought this last night, this is also on the eve of the NBA draft where, if this were the NFL, would be talking about this 2 months ago. And here we are discussing the NBA draft because of the odds shifting the way they did.
I mean, maybe the Magic are just really good at keeping a secret until the last moment. And
Maybe.
We really don't know what they're doing. I bet on Chet Holmgren plus 2,300 for $1 at number 1 just as a flyer because the odds are plus 2,300.
The Athletic has him going number 1
with him right now. I mean, it's crazy. So right now, Jabari Smith is minus. This is FanDuel. Jabari Smith minus 280, Banchero plus 200, Chet Holmgren plus 2,300, Jaden Ivey plus 20,000 for the number 1 overall pick. So Jabari Smith is a pretty overwhelming favorite at this point to be the number 1 overall pick. Which leads me to believe, Hutton, there is absolutely inside information that that's the pick at number 1 for the Magic.
It went from minus 275 to at midnight last night plus 150 for Jabari Smith. And then right now it's minus 10,000. Or this morning it was minus 10,000. Like it was just bouncing all over the place. And, people are more interested in making sure they get their picks right, their bets in, than they are who Orlando's going to end up taking. But, top 5 will be interesting because for the first time in a while, I feel like I know some of the players involved, right? Like, I'm fascinated to see where Ivy ends up because he does not want to play in Sacramento. A lot of the mocks have him going number 4 to Sacramento. He has made it known he does not want to play for the Kings. He wants to play for the Knicks.
Knicks want him.
And the Knicks love him. Yeah. I mean, so that's one side storyline I'm watching other than where Chet Holmgren ends up based on his height and the fact that he weighs about as much as, this rug in front of us.
I saw an interesting thing
under
on
200
Holmgren.
pounds at over 7 feet
I saw
tall.
an interesting thing from Jay Billis yesterday
crazy.
on Holmgren, who said, his brain is wired to say a guy like Holmgren has to be bigger. It's not right. All of that. His brain, like most of our brains, is wired that way. But in today's NBA, it doesn't matter. It's okay. He's he is a perimeter player. And because he's a perimeter player, it doesn't matter. You have to unconvince yourself that his bulk is a factor because you have to unconvince yourself that he is going to be near the rim as much as you think when you look at a guy that size and presume that he's going to be near the rim because he's a perimeter player. And he said it so well. It was on PTI. But like that, his brain is wired to believe you look at a guy like that, you picture him near the rim, and you think he's going to get the hell beat out of him. But he's not because he's not going to be near the rim like you think he's going to be near the rim.
He's going to be near the rim, though, because he has to guard someone.
Defensive,
and whoever
yes.
he guards at this point is going to be able to muscle him down low, even if that player's 6'4". I mean, if they put him on Grant Williams of the Celtics, Grant Williams will move from the perimeter
Take him to the
down low
Yep.
and just beat the you-know-what out of him down low. And he's not going to be able to do anything but, fold up like a tent 5 feet below the basket and get knocked out of bounds.
But I get what you're saying, and I think the same thing. But at least half the time, he can dictate the other way, right? On the offensive end of the floor.
Sure.
He
can stay out at the
take people where
three-point
he
line the whole
wants.
time and never drive down low if he wants. But
And he has a good handle.
In the NBA, you have to guard someone. That's why these guys have these bodies.
But it's also the right era, right? If he was playing, like when we talked to Ralph Sampson said, if I was playing now, I could go to the rim and not get hammered all the time like I did in my era. Now, the path to the rim is much freer than it was in my era.
Also, just the wear and tear of the
knees.
Yeah, and I think you worry about that anyway with a guy that size, right?
Any guy.
But in the era, it's also the era of load management. So are you investing in a guy who you think, could break down, but is more likely to do it because of the wear and tear of what Chad's saying on the defensive end? And are you more cautious of that because of that issue? Based on how much you're going to get out of that selection versus the other 2 or 3 top prospects in the draft?
Well, I mean, I really like what Dockich told us, right? You look at guys like that, and he feels like it's always less valuable than if you take is it Arizona State kid or Ivy, and that those guys wind up being the better long-term.
Well, Benedict Mathurin from Arizona, you're saying.
That wind up being the better long-term pick, but they're not as shiny.
Yeah, they don't
tonight.
They're not 7+, right? Like that's the difference.
It's difficult to argue with Chet Holmgren's unique combination of size, shot blocking ability, shooting, ball handling, all of that. But it is also very difficult for me to argue against Jabari Smith's pure shooter ability at 6'10", 6'11", what we saw at Auburn, and he's got more of an NBA-ready
it's only
body.
a couple inches.
And Paolo Banchero absolutely has an NBA body.
Yes.
As a freshman at Duke. And he can shoot it. He can put it on the floor. He can muscle guys. I mean, those 3 guys at the top, it's one of those where you just throw your hands up and say, looks like a good pick. Wherever the Magic go with that pick at number 1, I'm thinking, good pick.
Well,
tough to go wrong with those 3 guys.
That's why it's kind of a comfortable position. Who's third? You take the one that's left, and you don't have to do the deciding.
Well, it's crazy because who's got the second pick? I don't even have it in front of me right now. Chet Holmgren's the overwhelming favorite to go second. So even with the debate between Jabari Smith and Banchero being either going to one of them's going number 1 to the Magic, Chet Holmgren's plus 2,200. Whoever's got the second pick is not passing on Chet Holmgren.
It's Thunder, Rockets,
there you go.
Kings, top 4, and then the 5th pick is Detroit. And then are the Knicks able to get up and get Ivy at some point?
See, so Ivy probably isn't going third. He's probably going.
He's predicted 4th.
4th.
He's predicted 4th. And a lot of these guys, it's so difficult to mock the NBA draft because of the trades that take place.
So many trades.
How many guys will wear hats where they never even step foot in and don't even talk to the GM there, Coming up, Armando Salguero joins us. NFL news, notes, topics. We start with the House Oversight Committee and their conversation yesterday with Roger Goodell, the news from that, and what is expected as we move forward with Washington Commanders owner Daniel Snyder. We'll hit that. We'll hit Tony Siragusa's passing. And are the Browns now in the market to trade for another quarterback? Is Armando buying the scenario of Garoppolo in Cleveland? We'll ask him that and more next on OutKick 360. Glad you're with us. OutKick 360 rolls on across the OutKick network. Armando Salguero will join us coming up in just a matter of minutes. Looking forward to talking NFL headlines with him. If you're listening across the OutKick network on Sports Radio 104.7 across the Upper Cumberland, we say hello to you. Somo Sports Radio in Joplin, Missouri, live with us this afternoon. Fox Sports Shoals in Muscle Shoals, Alabama, in Huntsville, and in Florence, Alabama. Glad you're with us. And as always, love that we've added 94.9 The Fan to the OutKick 360 family right here in Nashville. By the way, you can follow us on Twitter at OutKick 360. The trade discussion now for the Browns is interesting. And, there's a story out that they could try to work something where it's Mayfield for Garoppolo. Paul, I'm always reports like this drive me nuts because for months it is assumed that financially you just can't make it work with the salary cap. You just can't get it going. And then here we are after minicamp where there's no mini availability for another month. And there's a report out like this. And now there's a separate report that Seattle may be interested in Mayfield now.
Well, the 49ers,
all of a sudden,
the 49ers may want Mayfield back, and that's fine. The one that drove me crazy was Carolina, like that the Browns would want Darnold back. I mean, just because Carolina would like to offload Darnold in the money may match up doesn't mean you have to take the other team's crappy quarterback when you're unloading the quarterback that you want to unload. If I'm the Browns, I have no interest in Sam Darnold.
Well, it's Brissett, that may be part of just trying to unload Baker Mayfield at this point.
But I'd take him and I'd cut him. So I'd tell you if that's the
you'd cut him if Deshaun Watson's suspended for the full season?
Well, probably.
No. I mean, I would.
Sam Darnold isn't a solution to me in Cleveland or anywhere.
There are no solutions, though, really, outside of Deshaun Watson not getting suspended. If you're looking at actual playoff-bound solutions.
Armando Salguero has a solution. Armando, how are you? I'm going to get into the news from Capitol Hill in a moment, but while we are waiting to chat with you, we brought up Mayfield and the trade options. Do you buy them?
Yes, I buy them because they have to do something. I think we've talked, for a long time that Baker Mayfield in Cleveland is not a thing. It would take an enormous 180 for him to ever play another down for the Cleveland Browns. The Carolina Panthers are looking for an upgrade. The Seattle Seahawks are looking for an upgrade. We know this. And there's only a couple of guys that they can go to. And those couple of guys are one, Baker Mayfield, and two, Jimmy Garoppolo. So pick one and go with, because there is nothing else. And by the way, the market isn't likely to shrink. It's possibly going to expand if you get into training camp and a quarterback goes down. And now you've got a desperate team that needs a starter, and they're going to look to those guys.
Armando, before we get into Roger Goodell's appearance before Congress, and we will get into that, I have to give you credit for really doing the difficult work and watching Jello's documentary on Netflix. Someone's got to do the hard work, and you decided to watch this thing for the good of OutKick and write a story about the objections that the NFL had to her halftime show, which apparently were different for people in cages versus the female sign that was going to be on the halftime show. Can you help explain what exactly went on in this documentary?
Yeah, it wasn't. So the NFL was freaked out about the cages, Chad. No doubt about it. That was at a time where the national media was making a big deal about the Trump administration over the course of a couple of days, that they separated children from their, adults and put the kids in cages. Of course, they didn't mention the fact that the cages were first used by the Obama administration. So there was that. However, the guy who directed that show, he was freaked out that Jello wanted to put that woman symbol on the field and make a statement about, I am woman, I am strong, all that. And look, apparently I missed it. I don't remember the moment where women became divisive, where being a woman was something that offended someone. I missed that total moment in the culture wars.
Well, so the director's argument was something about it's too on the nose. He said, like, the NFL is freaking out about the cages, but at least there's hidden meaning with putting people in cages. But when you put the female sign on the field, your message is too on the nose. And I'm with you, Armando. I'm hearing that. I'm saying, what is controversial? But that would have been fine. Who cares?
I like women.
Yeah. Yes.
I love one of them. So, and she happens to be my wife. And so the idea that women is not inclusive is, I think, it's a bridge too far for me. Obviously, not for some people. You're asking the wrong guy why. And the NFL didn't have a problem with the women. The NFL had a problem with the cages. And, oh, by the way, ultimately, both of them were in. Both of them were in the show. Everybody saw the woman symbol. The camera, if you were at home, I was at the stadium, but if you were at home, they only shot the cages from like outer space. And so you couldn't really see the cages that well.
Armando, what was the biggest lie from Roger Goodell yesterday?
That the people that requested confidentiality to go ahead and be part of the investigation that was done to the Washington Commanders' toxic workplace environment would not want a report out there. In fact, there have been other NFL investigations where confidentiality was granted and reports were written. And in those reports, people who requested confidentiality had their names redacted from the reports. Whereas yesterday, Roger Goodell is saying we can't have a report because we can't, tell people who is saying what. And there was a congressman who said, and rightly so, you had other reports where people requested confidentiality and their names were redacted, and that established confidentiality. Why can't you do the same? So that was the biggest, I think, you called it a lie, Jonathan. I want to be a little bit more artful and call it a fib and call it a truth. But yeah, it was a lie.
Where did the not knowing anything about Dave Portnoy rank, considering, as Hutton reminded us, Dave Portnoy was the high bidder on the watching a game with Goodell in his basement in that chair, which the NFL rejected.
Yeah. So, I don't know what Roger Goodell knows and doesn't know about the Barstool president, Paul. I really don't. I know that a lot of people know the guy. I had a little run-in with him, I think, like 6 years ago. And trust me, I am aware that he, he's got followers. And so, look, the idea that Dave Portnoy came up in a congressional hearing and some other stuff that came up, Deflategate came up in that the altitude of games and Deflategate coming up. I felt like my tax dollars, your tax dollars, everybody's tax dollars were probably being, kind of misspent right then and there.
How much more misspent do you feel there'll be next week, considering what we're likely to hear or not hear from Dan Snyder?
I don't think Dan Snyder is going to show up. I really don't. And I think that he's going to hire a legion of lawyers if it comes to that, to make sure that, he doesn't have to show up. I would be surprised if Dan Snyder does in fact show up under subpoena. First of all, the subpoena hasn't been issued yet, but I would be surprised if that's the case. What I've been told is he's trying to run out the clock. Look, there's an election coming up in November, and in that election, most political pundits would tell you they expect the majority in the House to change dramatically from majority Democrat to majority Republican. And once, or if that happens, Dan Snyder is not going to have to, be in front of Congress, and definitely not in front of the Oversight Committee. So that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to run up the clock.
I discussed this yesterday and threw this question out, Armando, and help me with this, if there's even a possibility of something truly great coming from all this. What is the best conclusion to all of this? Is it simply that the NFL has to turn over all of their findings, that there's more transparency, even if not in this case, in the future, that we learn more about John Gruden's side of things and the lawsuit against the NFL? Like, what actually comes of all of this that's happening right now?
Well, I would really like for there to be a report and redact the names. I don't see anything wrong with that. I haven't heard anyone make a cogent argument against that. And so that's where I think would be the sweet spot. I'm obviously a reporter. I always want more transparency and more information. Now, if it comes to, a point where the people that did in fact help the investigation under confidentiality agreements, voice to the people involved that they would have a problem even with redaction of their names, then I could see that too, because what you really want is, and what the NFL says that it's protecting, is future investigations. They want people who are insiders, who are whistleblowers, who know what happened, to talk to their investigators so that they come to a rightful end in an investigation with all the information that they can have. And they say that the confidentiality is a vehicle for getting that. And if they betray that confidentiality, they being the NFL, say that it puts future investigations at risk.
As long as it's an investigation on ownership. If this is on Deshaun Watson, they don't care if the names are redacted.
Well, I mean, with Deshaun Watson, it's public because the lawsuits are public, right?
Well, in order for a name to be redacted, Armando, that would mean the names would have to be written down somewhere. Yeah. This is just a verbal report. So if they did do this, they would be writing the report for the first time, right?
I have a feeling that there's a report. And obviously the NFL submitted a summary report for public consumption. I would be shocked, and they say that it's a verbal report. I would be shocked if someone doesn't have some sort of record keeping of a report.
How does this compare to the internal investigation / report of the Miami Dolphins from what feels like a decade ago, but it's probably not that long ago?
2014.
Okay.
And then Deflategate came, I think, 2 or 3 years later in 2016 or 17. What was interesting was that, the Congress people were asking for documents, and it was 40,000 documents totaling over 160,000 pages reportedly. Whereas the report that was written for the Miami Dolphins, workplace harassment scandal, if you want to call it, I think was 148 pages. The Deflategate was 168 pages, give or take. The NFL, it pays handsomely for these reports and for these investigations. They're not free. The people who conduct them, they spend money. It's not something that you just show up one day and you're done. So what I'm getting at is there was a lot of money spent in this last report, and the NFL paid for that money. I believe there is a report of some magnitude. And, I don't see a reason why even if there wasn't one written, Jonathan, one, we paid you, write one.
So looking at all this, Davey, our next guest is here, about to walk in. Looking at all this right now, are things improved with Washington? Because their response from the Commanders was an internal memo saying, disregard all the negative publicity right now. We've been working for 2 years to clean everything up. We are a different organization now. Ron Rivera puts out no one was asking Ron Rivera for his statement, by the way. No one thinks he's a part of this. But for whatever reason, he decided to put out a second bad statement over 2 weeks where he's saying, hey, I was hired to help with the football side and clean things up and yada, yada, yada. Are they telling the truth? Is it your understanding, Armando, that things are better right now with the Commanders organization, or is it as simple as long as Dan Snyder's running it, it's never going to be that good?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, he's running it, but from afar, because he is not around the team and he has agreed to not be around the team. Obviously there's been a lot of changes in the front office, on the business side, in coaching, in the football side. It can't help but be better, Chad, because apparently it was terrible. So it can't help but be better. But is it, I think Roger Goodell said it's night and day what it was before. That's not hard to believe because it was dark. It was night before, years ago when this was happening. And by the way, you've got Jacob Phillips coming in. Ask him to lift you with his biceps. See if it's...
Hey, I have a feeling that if we ever see this written report, on the front page, it will be titled Verbal Report. That's how they're going to work their way around the written report being referred to as the verbal report. That they always find a way.
What if it was just a voice memo from an iPhone?
Yes.
Here is our report, and it's just 30 minutes of someone talking into what they found in the investigation.
Yes. Armando, thank you as always. We appreciate the visit today, and we look forward to chatting about some upcoming training camps at some point with you.
Sounds good, guys. Be well.
Armando Salguero, OutKick.com is the site where you can read all of his NFL news notes and columns. Coming up, Brad Pitt.
Yes.
Speaking of France, so that's where.
Say more.
Daniel Snyder is vacationing, or he's on business, in France. Brad Pitt was searching for treasure on his property in France, and the reason why is just crazy. That's next on OutKick 360. Former LSU Tiger, current Cleveland Browns linebacker, Jacob Phillips will be in studio with us coming up in hour number 3. OutKick 360 rolls on. So Brad Pitt, and it's a part of a big lawsuit right now, actually, with Angelina Jolie. Brad Pitt admitted that he was tricked into what became a year-long treasure hunt at his French mansion.
So did somebody slip him a map with a big X on it?
So it turns out, there was this guy, so his mansion, he purchased it for $28 million, 35 rooms. There is a moat. There is an off-site chapel. There's a vineyard where the vineyard itself is a multi-million-dollar producer of rosé wine on an annual basis. And that's part of the lawsuit. Angelina Jolie, I guess she sold her shares in that. And this is Brad Pitt's passion. So there's a lawsuit about whether or not she could have done that or not.
Rosé wine is his passion?
Oh, yeah.
This vineyard and this mansion. So, but he admits that it was 1,000 acres. And Chateau Miraval
with the French.
Is where they're referring to here. So there is this producer of more or less metal detectors. I don't know how else to describe these things. And he was told that there was this massive treasure buried somewhere on this property. And so he just went to town trying to find this treasure. And he's from Missouri. He was like, look, I'm from the Ozarks. There are always stories of gold being buried somewhere in the Ozarks growing up. So you're used to stories like that. And he admits that he has been addicted to trying to find this treasure. And he also fully admits that he was tricked into doing it because this guy was trying to sell him or get him to invest in this product. It doesn't say whether or not he actually did. But the goal would be to get Brad Pitt to invest more than just buying one of these things, right? So
metal detector?
Yeah, or whatever it is to do, whatever type of
treasure finder?
Yeah, it's buried treasure.
But it turned out there were no big X's on the property.
There was no treasure map. There was no map.
You got to get the map.
I just love the fact that Brad Pitt is essentially Nicolas Cage character from National Treasure.
Yeah.
In real life, that he's obsessed with treasure and treasure maps.
So he didn't find it.
Addiction is real.
He makes $20 million per film on average, so it's not like he needs to find it. Can you imagine if
he could have done a film in the time that he was searching for the treasure?
Think of how unfair life is.
If he found the treasure.
Brad Pitt, $20 million per film, one of the best-looking men in the history of men, married to Angelina Jolie at one point, all of these things going his way, and at his French chateau, there is a buried treasure on the property
the chateau
that Brad Pitt finds.
In a town, a very small town where there are 800 people that make up this little Riviera.
Brad Pitt would pass Tom Brady as most fortunate man in history if he found some buried treasure at his French chateau.
I'm just picturing him with the doubloons running through his hands when he finds it, and I can't see it without it being from a movie.
So
it's not real life.
This French country-style manor was built in 1841. 926 acres, fountains, gardens, olive groves, woodlands, all of the accessories, a moat, along with 74 acres of vineyards.
Got to have a moat.
There's no chance he could describe every nook and cranny of this place, right?
Him being fooled by this reminds me of the story that George Clooney, I think, told on the Howard Stern show about the prank he played on him where he gave him the bumper sticker. He put it on his car when they were in Italy shooting one of the Ocean's movies or something that basically said, screw the cops in Italian, but he told him it said something else. It had some message that he was behind, so he kept getting pulled over and finally had to tell him the truth. So what we've learned is Brad Pitt is pretty naive when it comes to things like this. Little bit gullible.
He's like, I was obsessed.
How did this get out?
He admitted it in an interview with GQ. He said, for a year, this is all I could think about, just the excitement of it all. Maybe it has something to do with where I grew up, because the Ozark Mountains, there were always stories of hidden caches of gold.
They didn't find any of those either.
I mean, it's funny that's like.
But those have existed.
Brad, you haven't worked a lot lately in movies. What's been going on? I've been hunting for
I'm
treasure.
on a treasure hunt.
I guess I'll tell you guys now. I got duped into hunting for treasure on my property, and I was obsessed with it for over a year. That's why I haven't done anything.
He says the hunt. It was the hunt that was exciting.
Good for him.
I want the end of the Goonies with the pirate ship. And
No comment from Angelina on this. You mentioned her reaction.
Brad Pitt hasn't had to hunt anything in years until this one hunt.
Jacob Phillips up next on OutKick 360. From Nashville and 6th and Peabody, the final hour is here, Thursday edition with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Glad you're with us for OutKick 360 across the OutKick network. We've got news, notes, headlines throughout the hour. We will start today, though, with a guy who knows the state well, the state of Tennessee, former Mr. Football in high school, in 3A for Tennessee high school athletics. Goes on to LSU. He's a national champion in 2019 for the LSU Tigers. And now he's a middle linebacker for the Cleveland Browns and has been there going into year number 3. Jacob Phillips in studio with us as he is in town and brings to town for the first time his youth football camp, which is coming up this Sunday at Lipscomb Academy. And we'll have details of this on the screen and give it throughout. We're going to tweet this as well. Jacob, welcome in, man. Good to see you.
Good to see y'all. Thank you for having me.
Congratulations on the camp. I know this is something that you've been wanting to do for a while, and I asked you right before we started the hour, is this going to be annual? Because you announced this as your inaugural camp, and it is absolutely free, which is on behalf of you and some great partners that you have.
Yeah, definitely. I'm super appreciative to all the sponsors for the camp. That's being able to make this a free camp where we give away a lot of different things and just have all the kids there having fun, enjoying it.
You go from winning a national championship to the Cleveland Browns as a draft pick, a franchise that, as you know, is not necessarily known for winning. What was the initial thought when Cleveland drafts you in the 3rd round, coming off that national championship?
Obviously my initial thought was, how blessed I am for this opportunity and, how this has been something that I dreamed of since I was a little kid. But, getting up into Cleveland, being around the team and that's where the transition kind of started, and knowing that, in football, it's year to year. Everybody, every single Sunday, every single whatever day you play, each team has this equal opportunity to win. So, in all fairness, I feel like we had a great team, and we had pieces that we pieces to the puzzle that now I feel like we have more of a constructed puzzle.
Great high school football player, right down the road from downtown Nashville here in East Nashville at East Nashville High School. I got to ask this as a Tennessee grad because I feel like you hear this at times, Jacob, when you lose out on a recruit. People will say, well, Butch Jones didn't really want Jacob Phillips that bad. That's why he commits to Oklahoma and then eventually goes to LSU. Set the record straight. How hard did Tennessee recruit you during that process?
I got an offer from Tennessee when I was a sophomore in high school. They were my second offer. I got offered from Ole Miss, and then 30 minutes later, UT called me. So, growing up, being in Middle Tennessee, UT, was always a spot that, you kind of figure that if you get to that level, that's where you'll go. So, being that I was recruited from a lot of other different schools, around the country. Like I took official visits to Oregon, Oklahoma, Notre Dame, Bama, Texas A&M. Like it's just so much else, to see. I don't think it was a lack of recruitment on their end. I just think it was, a high school kid trying to figure out the best place for him to go.
When did you figure out you wanted to get away? That you wanted to go somewhere different? You mentioned Oregon, Oklahoma. These are very different places to go, coming from Nashville. When did you know you were going away for school?
I think my sophomore year, I wanted to be at Tennessee, and then I think my junior year when I transferred schools, and the offers just really started coming in, and you traveling a little bit for camps and to see these different schools. I think that was kind of the turning point in my head where it's like, okay, I kind of want to get away from everything that I'm used to and get in more like uncomfortable situations where I'm seeing the world and getting a little diversity.
Jacob Phillips, our guest in studio with us on OutKick 360, is hosting the free youth football camp coming up this Sunday, Lipscomb Academy here in Nashville. JacobPhillips.eventbrite.com is where you can register. We say register because you don't have to pay a dime. You just register, and it's open for boys and girls ages 8 to 14 for the skills and drills with Jacob Phillips and more coming up this Sunday morning.
You are so quick and so fluid when you watch play, you watch highlight clips. I'm curious what and I know you had an injury. What do the Browns send you into the offseason and talk to you through OTAs and minicamp about what they need you to do to get to where they want you to be next?
Yeah, they definitely want me to, turn the corner into, into that guy. So, it's kind of been, it hasn't necessarily been, talent at this point. It's just been, just trying to stay injury free. That's something that goes along with playing such a violent sport. Using your body every single day throughout the off season, during in season. It just comes with it. So, I'm just praying for, good fortune with my health. And, this OTAs has been really good for me. This is year 3 for me in the system. And, I had a lot of fun and I feel like I did really well. So, this season, I expect big things of myself.
So is it just keep doing what you're doing and it'll come so long as the health luck is on your side?
Yeah. They liked how I came in training camp last year, and I ended up tearing my bicep 2 weeks into training camp, but they liked that. And now when I came back, working out with the same guy, came back for OTAs, they really like where I'm at. I gained some weight. They wanted me to gain a little bit, so I gained about 8 pounds, and I feel even stronger. I've run, like, my miles per hour speed has gone up. My weight is going up, my strength is going up, my IQ is going up. Obviously, from this being my 3rd year now, so in my leadership also. So I feel like everything is going up for me, and now it's just time to put it on showcase.
Has there been any avoiding the Deshaun Watson questions, even as a inside linebacker in Cleveland, or is everything up there right now about him?
I kind of just, this is such a team sport, and team chemistry is so big in order to win games in the NFL, just because, every team is full of talent. So, I think that we all came together in OTAs and, everybody was able to bond. Everybody was able to get to know each other. I don't know how it is with other teams, but, majority of our team, superstars included, guys who just got paid included, were there majority of the whole OTA period. So, I feel like that would really helped us, and, it feels a little bit different this year.
Man, how do you avoid distraction there for OTAs or minicamp with all of the speculation about what a suspension could be? When is one coming? Baker Mayfield, aside from Deshaun, Baker Mayfield, and everything else involved there.
Just day to day, I think that you can kind of get a sense for the team, how dialed in they are to success, for how good they're able to keep distractions out of play. So I think that every single day we showed up, defense competed against the offense, trash talked each other. Every single day we were trying to get each other better. So I think that we've done a good job collectively as just focusing on what's important and trying to win games.
How was Baker Mayfield as a teammate when he was leading? I know you're on defense, he's on offense, but like you said, you're interacting all the time. What was Mayfield like as a team? I know he's still technically on your team, but what was he like in your experience?
Baker's a real good guy. Like I said, I was recruited to Oklahoma. I was actually committed there for 3 months, so I kind of knew Baker previously before me getting into even college football. Baker was one of the guys that I went on a visit to Oklahoma, and he told me to break it down. Like, I'm just a young high school kid after they got a win. So, I've always been a fan and supporter of his, and I know he's gonna bounce right back on both feet, and he's gonna finish up with a great career.
In terms of swagger and style and how they carry themselves, how close are Baker Mayfield and Joe Burrow?
I guess that's a fair comparison, but obviously 2 different people, 2 different situations. Being in college is more of a okay, we're all like brothers and we're all trying to do this thing called life and play football, focus on that, focus on school, focus on so many different other things. But in the NFL, it's kind of like, okay, we're brothers in the locker room, but like everybody has their family. You go home to your, people have wives, kids, so it's a little bit different. You don't get to know people as deep as you would in college, but as far as being on the same team and just seeing those two guys, I can just tell that it's two dudes who just want to win and will give it all for the success for the team.
Did you get a chance to know Joe a lot better because of the college setting as opposed to Baker?
Yeah, definitely. And but what I can say about both of them is that it's never any timidness. I've seen both of them take big hits, and get right back up and try and help us, succeed in the rest of the game. So, both great quarterbacks.
Let's go back to the national title game and the win and the iconic photo of Burrow after big wins and just the sitting there with the cigar. Just as we can relive it as fans, what's it like to look back on that game that night, the parties, whatever it might be afterwards, and think back of what LSU accomplished that night?
It's something funny. As you living in the life, it's hard to stop and reminisce about the things that you've done during it. So, I still haven't stopped ever since high school. I haven't really stopped to look back and see all the different things I was able to mark off my goals list. But it's what you got to be. You can't be complacent. You can't worry about the good things that you've done or seen in the past. You got to just kind of keep chugging along every single day and hope for more greatness, hope for more great opportunities to come around.
Were you able to catch any of that cash that OBJ was dispensing that night after the win on the field?
No, I didn't see that, but it was cool to see him there, see Jarvis there, Tyrann Mathieu there. Those LSU real legends, and just to see how much support they were giving us, pouring into us, like they were on the team with us. So it was a real special day, a special chapter in my football career.
Coach O is spectacular behind a mic. Personality, and that whole run and what he brought to LSU was incredible. Jacob, be honest. Were there times where he's addressing the team and you have no idea what he just said?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, being from Tennessee.
Yeah.
Going down there, that was one of the biggest culture shocks. Is like, what is everybody saying? Like,
it's not just Coach O down there. You're saying you got to learn Cajun pretty quick.
Yeah. You got to learn it. But that was one of the things I was talking about as far as me not going to Tennessee. I kind of wanted to experience new things. Learn about different people, different cultures. Obviously the food down there was amazing. You missed that, but just a different lifestyle. So it was a lot different.
You're represented by Drew Rosenhaus, correct?
Yes, sir.
What tell us about what that's like? He's a different bird in terms of the agent community. A lot of guys lay back and want to be in the background. He does not prefer the background. He is in the foreground.
Yeah. Drew Rosenhaus, he's been a real good agent to me. Started talking to him early. He was one of the first agents to reach out to me, and we just had a connection since then. He's somebody that, he has a lot of clients, but, he still seems to text me, every day, every other day, asking me how was practice, how is this, how is your workouts in Tennessee, how you doing, how you feeling, how's your body feeling. So, that he consistently cares, and, you hire a good agent for a reason.
Jacob Phillips, our guest, former 3A Mr. Football here in Tennessee, goes on to play and win a title with LSU. Now a linebacker with the Cleveland Browns. Best athlete you've been on the field with? And I have a name in mind, but I'd rather not say my guess yet until you name yours.
Let me get yours.
Well, I don't want to just give you the name. I'm curious if we match up here.
I've got a different one, probably than you.
Okay, so I would say
Might be the same.
I would say Myles Garrett.
That's what I would have said.
Myles is special.
I was going to say Justin Jefferson.
Oh,
Yeah, I say Odell.
oh, okay.
I had that in my head also.
Yeah, I say Odell. Yeah, definitely. He did a lot of crazy things. Like, he could throw the ball 80 yards in the air and then go catch it with 2 fingers. Like, so Odell, was special. He was a great teammate too.
And best player you've played against?
As far as the game, or as far as like his own legacy?
Well, no, just it could be college or pro. Someone you matched up against that you're thinking
played
this
to
guy
stop
could
him.
really play.
played
Could be a
against some
running back,
greats.
receiver, offensive lineman, quarterback, someone that even preparing for this person was difficult.
Every game week's different. As far as what plan we have going into the game, then you have to find your own little nuances and own little edge on from watching tape. Different tendencies that you might be able to pick up on. But obviously, if I'm going off of strictly career-based, Aaron Rodgers. If I'm going off of like who was most challenging last year, I'd probably say Najee. I've been playing against him since high school, in All-American games. So, and he's in our division. So I'm excited for the battles that we have upcoming.
And that's a one-on-one.
He's getting a lot more carries too.
Yeah, definitely. So, I love the competition. I love feeling in a state of you don't necessarily know who's gonna win, but you can give it your all, and when you put in the work, more times than not, you can be successful.
Were you surprised things ended less than 2 years after the national championship for Ed Ogeron at LSU?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, it's hard for me to once I got to the NFL, I have my own life, I have my own things to worry about. But so I would say so though. But I know that Coach O, as soon as he got the job, the next day he was in my living room, with my family and. Just talking and I was already committed at this point. I closed my recruitment, and it was just kind of one of those things. And then we went to go visit them in Louisiana later. It was just kind of one of those things. Talking to him that he shows that he really cares. And then once I got there, he shows that he's a player's coach. When it comes to practice and the things that we have to do. That he's always looking out for us.
Have you had a chance to meet with Brian Kelly since he took the job at LSU?
Not since.
He recruited you, though, right?
Yeah, he recruited me.
What were your experiences like when Notre Dame was recruiting you?
I wouldn't say Notre Dame was one of my favorite. I just didn't, one of my favorite schools. Like I loved the history of it all, but I just don't think being up there, playing in the cold, no division, no conference to play in. I don't think that was what I really wanted to do, but
so you loved when Cleveland drafted you. But man, this weather's going to be great. Bring it on.
Yeah. That's one of the things, though. But then, actually, when you get into it and playing it, you just know you get the Vaseline, a little bit more Vaseline on the arms and the legs. But it ain't too bad.
Is this a contract year for you coming up?
2 more, right?
2 more?
2 more. Yep.
So you're not thinking about it yet?
No, sir. Yeah. Even when time comes, so I say, you hire a good agent to, take care of your interest in that factor. And, only thing you can do is just, try and be as healthy as possible, play as good as possible, and try and lead as best you can, especially in my position. So, it's something I'm looking forward to, and I'm ready.
So playing with the Browns, played at LSU, of course. As far as road environments are concerned, the SEC stadiums are louder just for the sheer volume of people in the stadium. But as far as road environments and feeding off of the road crowd, do you prefer playing in like Tuscaloosa or Pittsburgh or Baltimore?
Definitely. It's no comparison college to the NFL. Even in those rivalry games in the NFL, you think it's going to be, a certain way. I would say the loudest stadium I've been in since being in the NFL is our stadium. Our home stadium, the dog pound gets real loud, but I also to say the same with LSU. A night game in Death Valley, you step on the field, it's like you just feel hollow. It's so loud, and you got so many passionate fans screaming and cheering you on each and every Saturday. So, I feel like I played in great fan-based arenas, and as far as other away game arenas in college, I would say when Alabama, I think this was the first time they turned on their lights in the stadium.
Oh, okay.
They turned those on in the second half. We was beating them pretty bad. Well, we was up a good amount. We were comfortable. Came out at halftime, they turned the lights on, and it was like we saw a different Bama team. But we came away with the win, and obviously in the NFL, I would probably say the Chiefs. Chiefs Stadium, Arrowhead. We played them in a playoff game, second round playoff.
And
game.
that is the closest environment to a college-like feel is Arrowhead. I think anyway. Chad, not too many 11 a.m. kickoffs at LSU for the reason he's talking about.
No, they like to get primed up down there in Baton
They
Rouge,
get upset.
ready to go.
They get upset with the morning kickoffs.
Yeah, the fans are much more amped by a night kickoff there at LSU, no doubt about it. And I'm glad you said that about the SEC because there really is no comparison if you go to some of these places. And I've been to a number of NFL places, and it is not nearly the same from a noise standpoint.
Yep.
Jacob Phillips in studio with us. Jacoby Brissett, cool behind the scenes as the backup right now?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like we got a real good quarterback room. We got your boy Josh Dobbs, UT, and we got Brissett, and then Washington. So I feel like our quarterback room going against them, they're good. They're learning the plays. They're learning the playbook. They're learning the system and how coaches want it to be done. So, I feel like we got a good shot. Regardless.
How's the competition amongst the inside linebackers?
It's good. I feel like we all push each other every day. I feel like more so this year is we're all kind of more closer to each other. Even like Myles Garrett, he took us on a trip to Miami a couple weeks ago. So, and then offense, obviously, Washington took them to the Bahamas, and you just kind of see like those little things, those little special things, like going to watch playoffs games all together. Like they kind of drive the team to mold together better, and that's only going to create success.
I'm okay if you're close to Anthony Walker. I just need you starting in front of him.
Yeah, definitely. Sure.
Hey, tell us about the football camp that's coming up. Absolutely free, and this is something that you hope becomes an annual event here in the Middle Tennessee area. I know Lipscomb Academy is hosting. They have tied in you there right now, and they're hosting your football camp this Sunday morning. And I'll mention again, jacobphillips.eventbrite.com is where you can go if you're in the area to sign up for the football camp this Sunday morning. It starts at 9:30, ages 8 to 14, boy or girl. Tell us what you hope to accomplish.
Going into this off season, I really wanted to make a impact in the community that has helped raise me and uplift me into the position I'm in right now. So I feel like always football has been a thing that I'm blessed with the talent, but how many people am I going to bless with my talent? So I started my foundation. It's called the Jacob Phillips God's Warrior Foundation, and I started off the summer by going and talking to different companies, trying to gain sponsorship, and I want to host my first football camp. I'm doing that, and there's also other things that I want to do in my camp. I want to make just really real intentional. I want to be intentional in what I do. I don't want to just do a football camp. Like I'm planning on doing a bike giveaway this summer, so the kids can get out of the house, ride bikes. Different.
Just activities outside of. Specifically football.
Yep, definitely. That, and I want to help in ways of like financial literacy and just different things that can make a real impact in kids' lives, and hopefully them seeing me do it will help them drive forward into maybe they didn't have a good year of school that year, or maybe they didn't have a good year of playing ball that year. It'll kind of get them to stay on course, stay on the right path, and you can accomplish all things if you stay focused and locked in.
Well, hey, man, congratulations on all the success. You've had it at every level, and we wish you nothing but the best as the career continues in Cleveland, and stay healthy, first and foremost.
Yes, sir.
Good luck.
Jacob Phillips has been our guest, and again, we'll link it up if you are driving across the network right now. You're like, man, I'd like to check out this link. Go to OutKick 360 on Twitter. That's where you can find the Eventbrite link to sign up. Again, free of charge, coming up this Sunday. We'll hit some headlines. We will discuss some nostalgia of some summer movies and beyond with Withrow next on OutKick 360. Our thanks to Jacob Phillips for joining us in studio, Browns linebacker, and of course, one of the best to play high school football in the state. He went on to win a championship at LSU.
So tonight, as picks are made, the State Farm jingle will fire off. How do we like that as an advertising mechanism?
It's going to get old.
I think so, too.
It's going to get very old. There's something I said. It's not.
If I don't even know what is there an NBA draft jingle to begin with? Like I know the NFL. Yeah, or the pick is in, right?
Yeah, it's like a it was like a, but it's like a it's like a chime. It's not the ESPN Sports Center. It's like a chime, but it's a
very distinct
rhythmic chime that is very distinct. I can hear it, but I cannot do it justice if I try to make that noise.
It doesn't belong to
with
some
my
other
mouth
company.
right now.
It gives you a certain feeling when you hear it. If I hear the State Farm jingle over and over again,
gives you the feeling like I should go to the bathroom because the commercial's on.
Yeah, I'm already upset that I've mentioned their company twice.
There you go.
By complaining about it before I've even heard it.
Well, the jingle discussion makes me think about at Iowa. They waved to the Children's Hospital in between the third and the fourth quarter. They are now allowing their student body to vote on the song that plays during the wave. So they have submissions from the students, and then they're going to have a big vote where the students decide whatever song will play during the wave.
The same song? Like they're picking a song for that, or they're picking a different song every game?
It's not like a songwriting competition. They get to pick an existing song. And they're going to vote.
But they'll do a different one every week?
No.
Or they'll pick one song that's going to be the song for that?
They're voting on the song.
Cool.
Not week to week, but from here on out. They will play a certain song in between the third and fourth quarter.
I think it's cool to have a song identified with that, but they'll probably pick the wrong song.
At Florida, they play Won't Back Down by Tom Petty going into the fourth quarter every game. Tom Petty, who worked at the University of Florida at one point and is from Gainesville. That's what this is going to be for the wave.
Banchero is dressed tonight kind of like Prince. Don't you agree?
He's got the purple.
And
what's the emblem on the jacket?
I don't know.
It looks like
mini
Jack
microphone.
Nicholson as the Joker from the 1989 Batman movie.
I always see like the suit combinations. Like he's wearing a purple suit with a red watch, and I think like if I considered walking out of the house wearing that. Like, there's no way I would be.
Society.
No, but I'm saying like I would be thinking about how foolish I look before I even leave the house. But these guys are able to pull it off.
I disagree with this.
They look at this
for this reason.
They look the part on this NBA red carpet.
Let's dive right into this because I have a big issue with this. That does not look good.
I don't think it does.
That is not fashion.
No,
that is not stylish. It's not. It's this idea that we worship youth and celebrity so much that anyone young, hot, and famous can wear anything and it's cool.
Yeah, but
it's just this construct that we've convinced ourselves.
But the young and hot and famous are wearing what the old and wrinkled say is cool. If you really think about it,
I don't know about that.
The fashion designers
will see it.
They're not young.
Kids will say it's cool, but they're doing it to appeal to the youth.
They're leather bags.
Yes, but they're doing it to appeal to the youth.
Yeah,
and the first person that says that's cool is my 12-year-old. And that's who they're looking to appeal to.
But it's
other people their age.
Again,
they don't care what we think.
It's only cool because they're wearing it.
Yes.
So there's not. And
it's automatically cool because they're wearing it. It doesn't matter what it is.
I see plenty of cool. Women will wear evening gowns at a award show. I'm like, that's a really good look. Like, she looks great in that. And then I see other people showing up in a styrofoam box, wearing it because some designer made it as a statement to something. I think that looks terrible. But people are conditioned and taught to believe it's cool only because they're cool and they're wearing it.
But they saw it first on the runway in New York. That's my point. By some leather bag who designed it.
But the leather bag is also wearing a leather bag. So that, too, is not cool. That does not look good.
But
they convince people it's good.
I'm like this. Who determined when a cuss word was a cuss word? Who determines who is very popular in fashion and why they get the say in fashion?
It's a great point.
You can't name these people. But they're extremely influential in how we go about our daily lives.
Well, so here's the way I look at fashion, okay? This is something I never thought I'd say on this show into a microphone. If it's something that you can design that looks sleek and good on just about anyone, you've done a good job being fashionable. If it's something that's like a trash bag or styrofoam box that I talked about, that's only going to be worshipped because the person wearing it is already worshipped, it's not fashion. It's you trying to get away with throwing a styrofoam box on someone famous.
I agree with you, but that may be the definition of what quote-unquote fashion is. What you're describing, putting a trash bag on somebody.
It's very lucrative.
I get that art is subjective. There's not a hard and fast rule on these things. It just bothers me. Well, like when I see these suits that NBA draft picks will wear, NFL draft picks, and I look at someone like, that guy looks really sharp. That's a good look. That would look good on a number of people, and that designer did a good job styling something for that person and tailoring it, and they could do that with other people. Instead of you show up as Jack Nicholson as the Joker from 1989. But because you're Paolo Banchero, it's fine.
Most of these guys will look ridiculous tonight.
And then they wear a hat that doesn't actually fit on their head.
A top hat. Nobody should be wearing
a ball
top
cap
hat.
That's a top hat.
Unless you're playing a character from an era where top hats were popular, you shouldn't be wearing a top hat.
Here's the thing. I can't wait for the year 2047 when cargo shorts are in fashion again. Like, can we bring that back, please? Where I'm not called an idiot for wearing cargo
was big,
shorts.
right along the same time as the cargo short, Hutton, was the carpenter pant.
Carpenter pant was legit from American Eagle.
I was going to say, I had the American Eagle carpenter pant where, if I ever need to put a hammer in my, side pocket, I'd be set.
Will painters' hats ever come back?
I'm sure they're
probably
already back
sooner
somewhere.
Than carpenter pants.
My daughter, who's 7, is walking around the house looking like Janet Jackson from Rhythm Nation right now. She's got like the old school hat that looks like a train conductor hat that's solid black, and she's got like a black skirt on, and then like some sequin top.
Is she big into Janet Jackson?
She looks like Janet Jackson from the late '80s. And I'm thinking, this is probably in fashion right now. Actually, you could probably leave the house and be fashionable wearing this.
Has she seen Janet?
No, this is just what she decided to wear. She dresses herself, and this is the outfit she came up with.
Well, she's a fashion.
I don't know where the hat came from. I have no idea. She just put it on. She may have made the damn thing. Who knows?
She stole it?
I don't know. Maybe
someone's missing a hat.
Yeah, my daughter's already a kleptomaniac.
So Ryan Albanese is back with us. He went on a European vacation for about a month and a half.
Yeah.
And he's now back with us, but he's back without a bag that included the camera. Where he shoots a lot of footage on a YouTube channel where he goes and where movies were filmed and goes side by side on shots of the movie versus, in the here and now. Here's where the movie was filmed. And his valuable stuff was taken.
You're always warned over there, and Chad's been in this situation. I don't know if you heard this when you went to Italy on your honeymoon. You're going to get surrounded by people. They're going to distract you, and you're going to, have no choice, really. Things are going to be taken off your body. I've been over to Europe a couple times, and I was on high alert, and nothing like this happened to me at all. Chad, you said you were accosted, if you will.
Yeah, I didn't hear about like gypsies and like a big magic act to get it, but I was just always told, put your stuff in your front pocket.
Yeah.
Which I did the whole time, and it did not stop a guy from posing as a cop or security guard and robbing me as I walked onto a train in Alicante, Spain.
So nice.
I'm walking on, a guy in all black is walking out and pats me down. I'm walking onto the train, so I'm thinking, this guy's like the train police, and he pats me down wearing all black in a fake badge and takes my wallet out of my front pocket.
He got ripped off by a trick-or-treater.
It was some street magic. It was David Blaine filming a reality show.
Yeah, you could have used some time in the big city before you went to Europe.
Yeah. That's from a guy who has tweeted his own routing number.
Yeah.
Needing some time in a big city.
This is cybercrime, which is different
this
than
from a guy
man-to-man crime.
Who tweeted a breaking news story on a 2-month-old interview 3 days ago.
Again,
from a show on a day we launched in Nashville. It's competition now.
Cybercrime, not man-to-man crime.
I'm not the naive one here, Chief.
Speaking of crime, that was the big eye-opening thing for me in Italy, where the mob influence and the the head counters in all the restaurants. I've told you guys about this, but every place you sit down, immediately, like within 3 to 4 minutes, there would be someone walking in trying to get me or anyone at every table to purchase a rose for who you're with.
Yeah.
And
romance. And you were on your honeymoon, so this is fitting.
Yeah, of course, I bought no rose. I'm looking at them like, no, man, you literally asked me that at the previous stop because they're everywhere. They're also like out on in these different squares. They have like
Piazza.
Yeah, the piazzas. They have these guys who are like trying to sell you like this little like paper airplane looking thing that you spin up in the air. They're like fidget spinners, but they actually fly and glow. And I'm like how lucrative could this be? And this randomly came up, and I asked one of the tour guides about this because they're everywhere. And he said they come in to head count to make sure the restaurants are not skimming off the top on how many people they've actually served that day, because they have to pay a tax to the mafia, and that's how they keep up with how much business they've done on any certain day, is they have people that come in and I count the seats.
I just finished watching this show on Paramount Plus, The Offer, which is about the making of The Godfather.
Yeah, is it good?
Very good. Very entertaining. Miles Teller's great. Really good cast. The head of Paramount Pictures, Bob Evans, is a big part of it also. It's really well done. The guy who plays Al Pacino, young Al Pacino, is spot on with the voice and everything as Al Pacino. Anyway, they go to Sicily. The big part of the movie is they had to get in cahoots with the New York City mob and Joe Colombo to get the thing made. And the deal they made was the Albert Ruddy, who's the producer, Miles Teller plays him. He said, we will not use the word mafia in this picture, to not stain the good name of the Italian-American workers in New York City and everything going on, because they were dead set against giving a bad name to Italians from this movie because they knew it was going to be popular. So they took that out and they allowed them to make it. They did a private screening for the mob in New York City a month before the movie came out. Really well done, really good movie. But they're in Sicily shooting scenes, and they walk into a restaurant, and it's a similar thing where the restaurant owner is saying, so this guy right here is going to take care of you. And it's just a table of guys in suits sitting over to the side and kind of nodding, giving them a drink, this and that. And Ruddy looks at the rest of the table and says, yeah, we got to get out of here. We're going to have to shoot somewhere else. And they're like, why? He's like, because I'm not getting into this again. Where it's the mob that's saying, you're going to give us a cut of what you shoot over here, but we're going to give you protection and show you around. And like, yeah, we'll go ahead and finish these drinks and just get out of here. Get out of this part of town and leave. But I highly recommend it.
Yeah,
The Offer.
The Offer?
The Offer.
It's on.
It is an eight
Peacock?
episode. No, it's on Paramount Plus. It's an 8 episode limited series. If you watched 1883 or Yellowstone, these are all shows that are on Paramount Plus too.
Coming up, modern day takes on our favorite sports movies. It's something you could read at OutKick, and Chad will tell you about that next on OutKick 360. NBA draft tonight. Just around the corner, actually. We'll have the recap tomorrow. Plus, Bobby Carpenter will join us. Maybe some special guests on the Friday edition of the show. Plus, Brent Hubbs of VolQuest.com. Chad, tell us about the recent column in OutKick that I believe posted early this morning about some remakes or take-twos on some classic sports films.
So I got to thinking about this on Father's Day, got a little bit nostalgic, and I watched recently the movie Hustle on Netflix starring Adam Sandler, the basketball movie, which I was really impressed with. It's great. Very impressed with it.
And who's the player you said was really good in the movie?
Well, and I'm blanking on the guy's name, but it's a Spanish player that is the co-star with Adam Sandler, who was good. But Anthony Edwards was really good.
Ricky Rubio?
Kenny Smith was awesome as Adam Sandler's best friend and an agent in it, not playing himself of Inside the NBA. Anyway, that movie's good. Got me thinking about sports movies I've seen over the years, a lot of them with my dad when I was thinking about this on Father's Day. And given the success of Cobra Kai on Netflix, it was originally on YouTube Red when YouTube had their subscription service, and Netflix bought it, and it's been a huge success for Netflix. They're about to have season 5 of that. It got me thinking about sports movies ripe for a sequel or just a flat-out remake, a modern-day, modernized remake. I think most of my ideas, and you can read about it at OutKick.com, most of my ideas honestly would work better as a series, like a streaming service series. For example, I went with Varsity Blues. Paul Walker has died. He was Lance Harbor in the original. So my idea was Lance Harbor becomes head coach at West Canaan when Bud Kilmer is gone, and he had the knee injury. Remember, he couldn't go to Florida State because he had the catastrophic injury. He becomes head coach, passes away, untimely death. Jonathan Moxon is a professor in the Ivy League after he went to Brown to play football and has called back home to Texas. Failing marriage, goes to Texas, becomes the head coach for Lance Harbor. Charlie Tweeter is the biggest citizen in town, owns a string of convenience stores, and is a big booster for the team, so they reconnect. This, to me, is, people must say, it's Friday Night Lights. To an extent, yes, but everything in media right now is a repeat of something. That should be a series.
It could be the adult. It could be the adult version, though. Of Friday Night Lights.
Another follow-up I had was Little Big League with the 12-year-old manager of the Twins and the owner, where Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who's right around 40, now plays 40-year-old Bill Haywood, who does the same thing. He's been an owner of the team, but they've got the lowest payroll in the league. He fires the manager and inserts himself in again, as he did when he was 12 years old. I would love to see things like this. And it sounds so silly with some of these movies. One of them was Hoosiers, which people say that's blasphemy.
I object to one. That's blasphemy. Don't remake Hoosiers.
And Jerry Maguire. People say don't do a sequel to Jerry Maguire that focuses on Rod Tidwell, Cuba Gooding Jr.'s character, but I'd like to see that too.
You could remake Hoosiers for a younger crowd.
You just make it modern day. My idea was put Kevin Costner in the
It doesn't hit the same for the younger crowd, Paul. I've watched a 12-year-old watch it. You could barely stay seated to watch it.
Well, Bad News Bears was one I would say is blasphemy to remake, but they remade it, for a younger crowd with Billy Bob Thornton and the Walter Matthau.
You also remake Space Jam for a younger crowd for a reason.
I think it would do well. My idea was Kevin Costner in the Gene Hackman role in Hoosiers, in the modern remake of it.
Who would play the drunk father?
Oh, Dennis Hopper's character? John C. Reilly?
Will Ferrell?
Will Ferrell would play a great drunk also.
Now we're turning it into a comedy.
Paul would have no problem remaking the program as it not being a classic film. That's another one that today's college football is ripe for just a complete reboot of the program.
Yes.
I said put John Hamm or Vince Vaughn as James Caan's role as the head coach. And, I mean, everything that happens now was in that movie, you just updated a little bit. Anyway, these are things that I'd watch. You can read about it at OutKick.com. Thank you.
But don't touch Hoosiers.
Odds for the top pick, does it remain the same? Minus 300? Yeah, so it's still Smith minus 300 for the top overall pick. Here's what we know now.
Go Knicks.
It's going to be a shock if it's not Jabari Smith based on these odds.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how they account for possible trades for all this, which are going to go down in the top
Jabari
five.
Smith to go first and there's a trade.
You lose.
Well, if he goes first, you win no matter what.
Right? Yeah, but if someone else, I'm saying if you're betting on
the Chet Holmgren lover team trades up,
right?
Then you're screwed.
Yeah, or who knows?
Well, I'm not because I put $1 and would win $22 on that.
There you go.
If that trade happens,
we'll compare notes on who stuck with the NBA draft the longest whenever we reconvene
I may not
tomorrow.
Start with it.
I'm going to a family dinner, so I may already lose.
I don't know what there is to watch if you don't start with the NBA draft.
I'll put it on the background.
Who's got the State Farm jingle?
Back
in their
at
head?
it tomorrow on OutKick 360.
Don't block the box. Be sure to lock your locks.